dwarf, brahmachari, just like a theatrical actor. Please repeat. The Lord appeared in his original form,
The Lord appeared in his original form,
with ornaments and weapons in his hands.
with ornaments and weapons in his hands.
Although this ever-existing form
Although this ever-existing form
is not visible
is not visible
in the material world,
in the material world,
nonetheless appeared in this form.
nonetheless appeared in his form.
Then in the presence of his father and mother,
And in the presence of his father and mother,
he assumed the form of Vamana,
he assumed the form of Vamana,
a Brahmana dwarf,
Brahmana dwarf,
brahmachari,
brahmachari,
just like a theatrical actor.
theatrical actor.
Shri Nitai Satchi Sutta Ki. Shri Radha Parisisvara Ki. Lord Bhagavatam, Lord Hare, ladies, brother Bhagavatam. Report by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Swami Srila Prabhupada. The word nata is significant. An actor changes dress to play different parts, but is always the same man. Similarly, as described in the Samhita 5:33 and 5:39, the Lord assumes many thousands and millions of forms. Advaita Machutam Anadim Ananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham, etc. He is always present with innumerable incarnations. Amadi Murtishu Kalani Niyamena Tishtanana Avatar Makarod Bhuvaneshu Kintu. Nonetheless, although he appears in various incarnations, they are not different from one another. He is the same person with the same potency, the same eternality, and the same spiritual existence, but he can simultaneously assume various forms. When Vamana Dev appeared from the womb of his mother, he appeared in the form of Narayana, with 4 hands equipped with the necessary symbolic weapons. Then he immediately transformed himself into a brahmachari, Vatu. This means that his body is not material. One who thinks that the Supreme Lord assumes material body is not intelligent. One has to learn more about the Lord's position. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4:9, Tanma karma tame divyam evam yo veti tatvataha. One has to understand the transcendental appearance of the Lord in his original transcendental body, Satchidananda Vigraha. Omagana Timrandasya Yanjana Shlakaya Chakshunolitamina Tasmai Shri Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pastai Udalation Iti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachayani Nivasi Shri Namaskar Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Very happy to be back here in Paris with all the enthusiastic devotees who are trying to make Lord Chaitanya's teachings available to the people in general and maintaining this wonderful temple with these ecstatic deities, which are wonderful to serve and appreciate. So, some nice verse describing the appearance of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada makes different points about his transcendental body. He starts out by saying the word nata is significant, which reminds us of the second verse of the prayers of Queen Kunti, who uses the very same word. That's 1:8-19. Maya Chalana Kachana Agyad Hokshajam Aviyam Lakshase Mudadisha Nato Natyadaro Ita. being beyond the range of limited sense perception, you are the eternally irreproachable factor, covered by the curtain of deluding energy. You are invisible to the foolish observer, exactly as an actor dressed as a player is not recognized. So if somebody saw the beautiful transcendental form of a youthful Brahmana, they would conclude that, oh, he's Narayan. Because if somebody's dressed really well in the drama, you can't figure out who's actually playing the role. So Vamana is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, complete with all his potencies, with all his weapons, but he looks just like a youthful Brahmana brahmachari. So Prabhupada quotes Brahma Samhita about how the Lord has many, many forms. Advaitam, Achyutam, Anantam, Ananta Rupam. Ananta means end, and Ananta means endless. So he has endless Rupam, endless forms. And he makes the point that all these forms are not different from one another. Although they look different, they all have the same potency. And they're all the same person. And therefore we shouldn't discriminate between them. Right? We should see them all as the personality of Godhead. And he mentions the three characteristics of the form of the Lord: Sat, eternal; Chit, full of spiritual knowledge; and Ananda, full of spiritual bliss. So the form of the Lord isn't a material product, because all the forms we see are material. And people who are uneducated, when they see this form of God, they think, well, that's just another material form. And if he does something amazing, and then he maybe he's a demigod, maybe he's in the mode of goodness, so he has extra 8, yogic powers or something like that.
Tricks.
Yeah, but they have no. We have no experience of spiritual form in this world. So, based on our limited, knowledge, we just assume all forms are material, which is wrong. And there is spiritual form, Satchidananda, Vigraha. Vigraha means form and eternal, full of bliss and full of knowledge. Sometimes it's argued that proof of that the Lord's form is transcendental is that he was there before the creation, and he decided to create, and then he glanced over the material energy. But at that point, there were no material eyes. So the eyes that he used to glance over the material energy must have been spiritual. And there was no material mind. So the mind that he used to decide to create, that was transcendental, because his mind and his eyes existed before the material eyes and minds was created. So Krishna is eternally existing in spiritual planets Vaikuntha Loka, where there's no anxiety, and everything there is made out of spirit. Just like in one place in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada mentions the point, we have like earth, water, fire, air in this world, and they're all material, but they're all spiritual. Everything in this world, everything is made out of matter, and in the spiritual world, everything is made out of spirit. Everything is eternal, everything is full of bliss, everything is full of knowledge. There's no creation, there's no destruction. In this material world, there's always creation and destruction. Practically every temple I go to, there's some building next door that's being torn down or put up, and the noise is always disturbing the devotees. Because Prabhupada would say that the people in this world, they're just breaking and building. Building is the mode of passion, and breaking is the mode of ignorance. But in the Vaikuntha Loka, there's just the mode of goodness. Everything is sustained. There's not all this breaking and building going on.
There's no room there for breaking. Yeah, good fun. Krishna breaks pots.
But they remain they remain intact. they don't then become unmanifest. So this is so by one speculation one can understand the transcendental nature of the form of the Lord. Therefore, one has to understand it by revelation. It's revealed in the revealed literatures, and it's revealed in the words of the bhaktas. Krishna makes the point in Bhagavad Gita that he can only be known by devotion. Prabhupada loved to quote 1855, Bhakti mama midanati yavan yasyastri tattvato mam tattvato vishate tad anantaram. And Krishna says that he can only be known by devotional service, and when one is in full consciousness of him by such devotion, one can enter the kingdom of God. So the only people who actually know the truth about Krishna are his devotees. Therefore we have to hear from the devotees about Krishna. Otherwise we will get some erroneous mental speculation. And so we have to engage in the devotional service. There's two other verses in the Gita that say Krishna can only be known by devotion, and they're even more emphatic because they modify the word bhaktya, which means by devotion, by the word ananyaya, which means by nothing else. So by unalloyed devotion, not by mixed devotion. By devotion, not mixed with anything else. When Prabhupada came to Boston, he saw a sign on a building, unalloyed steel. And when he visited it later on with the devotees, he said, yes, they have their unalloyed steel and we have our unalloyed devotion. Yeah, so what's that verse go? Let's see. Bhaktya Tvanaya Shaka Aham Eva Vajojana Tum Jastum Jatatpena Pravesham Chaparantapa. That he's telling Arjuna in 1154 that he can be only known by undivided devotion, and that one can know him drastam and as gyatam, and then one can see him drastam as Arjuna himself is seeing him by such unlimited devotion. So we have to hear from the devotee of the Lord, whom the Lord has revealed his glories to, or from the revealed literature, where the glories of the Lord are described. Otherwise, we can't actually know the glories of the Lord. Therefore, we're always engaged in hearing and chanting these literatures. Every morning we hear Srimad Bhagavatam, every evening we hear Bhagavad Gita, and thereby we have the opportunity to actually understand the form of the Lord, which is revealed in these literatures. And Prabhupada makes the point that he had the form of Narayan, and then immediately he transformed into the form of Vamana, and that's evidence that his body is not material, because a material body can't do that transformation. And it's interesting also that when Krishna appeared himself, he also appeared as a four-handed Narayan, and then by the request of his mother, he transformed into the two-handed Krishna, because if he had the four-handed form, then Kamsa would immediately understand, aha, that's my enemy Vishnu, I must kill him. So Devaki wanted him to disguise himself so he wouldn't be recognized. So those are a few points about what's said here. I'm not a big Bhagavat Gita person who can go for hours talking about the Bhagavatam, unfortunately. I would talk about the Bhagavatam and then I would do kirtan, and then we'd talk about the Bhagavatam and do kirtan. So does anybody have any questions, comments, or realizations about the transcendental form of the Lord, Vamana Day? whose auspicious appearance is being described. Yes.
You mentioned this verse of Bhagavad Gita saying about undivided devotional service.
Yes.
What is it referring to?
Well, the
Undivided.
word anya means another. And the word ananya means without another. And the word ananyaya means without another. So bhakti means devotion, and bhaktiya means by devotion. So it's literally saying by devotion and nothing else, and basically, or we say pure devotion also, pure devotion, unmixed devotion, devotion that isn't mixed with anything else, which is attained by.
Sometimes people say that when they divide their love amongst different things. That's divided love.
Right.
And they only focus on Krishna.
And there's a quote it's the Nectar of Devotion, where Rupa Goswami quotes Bhishma Dev by saying that when one withdraws one's love from any other objects and focuses on Krishna, that's being desired. So sometimes when people hear that, they think, how can you not love anybody but Krishna? But Krishna is the source of everything. Krishna is the sum bone, the absolute truth. Everything in existence emanates from Krishna. The spiritual energy, the marginal energy, the material energy. So when we're loving Krishna, we're actually loving everything. So people shouldn't feel bad that we're loving. Like, for example, I'm loving Krishna, but I came to visit my mother before she was going to leave her body, because which I might not have done had I called her. And I definitely wouldn't have given her Ganges water that I just brought from the Ganga at Mayapur 3 days before to bless her with. But because I'm loving Krishna, I'm engaging my mother in all these super extra transcendental activities, so she'll have a spiritual destination in the next body. So by loving Krishna, I'm loving my mother more than I would be if I wasn't loving Krishna. I wouldn't have a clue of anything to do for her soul. Some of the other people did have, we sang one Catholic song, Dona Nobis Pacem. A song asking the Lord to grant us peace. So that's a little bit transcendental. That could count as an auspicious thing, but generally there wasn't a wealth of transcendental ideas for how to treat our mother when she left her body. But we know zillions of things to do. We put Vrindavan dust on them. We can put water from the 1,008 tirtha places. We can put Nishringa oil on. We can put Nishringa Pavach on. So many devotional activities we can engage with. So because we're loving Krishna, we're actually loving people better. We're loving people by allowing them to hear the holy name, so they're becoming free from their karma. So they're becoming, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yesham tadadapam dhanam punya karma te dvanda mohanir mukta bhajanti mam duravata. Persons who've acted piously in previous lives and in this life, whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, and engage themselves in light devotional service with determination. So the people aren't, knocking on the door asking how they can engage in the service of Radha Parisisvara here, because they're not pious from the past. They're engaged in sinful activities. Previous lives and in this life they're engaged in sinful activities. So how are these billions of people going to become purified from their sinful actions? By hearing the devotees chanting the holy name, by seeing and touching, purchasing and reading the Transcendental Literature, by tasting the prasad. There's one Leela where Prabhupada's talking about how you have to be completely pure to engage in devotional service. You have to be pious to engage in devotional service. And one disciple raises his hand and said, Srila Prabhupada, I don't think I did anything pious in this life. And Srila Prabhupada said, I created your pious activity. So how did he create the people's pious activities? Just to have darshan of a pure devotee, one becomes free from sin. So it's just by showing up, he created their sinful activities. By engaging in kirtan, by allowing them to hear the pure chanting of the holy name, he gave them pious activities. And by allowing them to hear his recitation of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, he engaged them in pious activities. So he wanted us to create pious activities for people. And therefore, he wanted us to go out every day on Harinam and book distribution, so that people have the opportunity to become pious and interested in inquiring about Krishna. Because if people are impious, they're just inquiring about their body and their mind and how to make their body and mind happy and healthy. So the pharmacy said, Shante et beauté, health and beauty. And nothing about the soul there, just health and beauty of the bodies. People are into. So he wanted us to take up the tradition of creating pious activities for people by engaging them in devotional service. So this bhakti, when it's completely pure, allows us to realize Krishna. When it's not completely pure, bhakti is always good, because by performing mixed bhakti, we become purified by whatever bhakti is there in the mixture, and ultimately we become pure bhaktas. A great example given is Dhruva Maharaj, who had a material desire. And his material desire was, we may think we have like big material desires, but our material desire is nothing compared to Dhruva's material desire. Right? He wanted a kingdom greater than his grandfather. Right? But he was successful because there's that verse that goes, Kama sarva kama va moksha kama udardi terena bhakti yoga enaya jada purusham param. 2, 3, 10. One is free from all material desires of all material enjoyments, or wanting liberation. By all means one should engage in really focused devotional service to the Supreme Lord, and thus attain perfection. So because he was so focused in his devotional service, even though he had material desire, he was so focused on his devotional service, he became completely purified. And he had a colossal material desire. Because basically he completely engaged himself according to his guru. He was so absorbed in devotional service that he ate every few days, and then he drank every few days, and he breathed every few days, and he choked up the universal breathing system, so everyone in the universe was freaking out and went to Brahma and said, what's going on here? and Brahma told him, oh, that's true, we're performing austerities, don't worry, the Lord will appear, everything will be right. So, if we perform devotional service, the devotional service purifies us. We become more and more purified until we get to the point where we just want to do devotional service, because we realize there's this nice verse that goes, there's 5 verses that Prabhupada would quote all the time, beginning with Srinvatam Svakata Krishna. He put him in that prayer, that song he wrote when he came to America. He put him in the first verse of the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita in the purport. There's 5 verses. So after those 5 verses, there's another verse. Atavai kavayo nityam bhaktam paramaya mudana vasudeva bhagavati kurvatyatma prasadanyam. Therefore, since time immemorial, all transcendentalists have been rendering devotional service to the Supreme Lord with great delight. because such devotional service is satisfying to the self. So by performing devotional service, one comes to the realization that this devotional service is so nice, I don't have to do anything else. All I have to do is devotional service. That'll completely enliven myself. There's that verse, Svai pum sampuro dharmo yatal bhaktir hoksate haitakiya pratiyataya atma suprasidati. The supreme occupational dharma for all of humanity is that by which one can attain to unmotivated, uninterrupted devotional service to the transcendent Lord. Only such service can satisfy the self. So, but people in general, when people are dissatisfied, no one concludes the reason for my dissatisfaction is there's some motivation in my devotional service or some interruption in my devotion. If we concluded that and then we sought to eliminate the motivation and the interruption, then we could come to the point of uninterrupted devotional service and experience the pure satisfaction of the soul. So the people like Rupa Goswami, they're glorifying this devotional pleasure. Right? He talks about there's material pleasure, spiritual pleasure, and devotional pleasure, which is like the pleasure of Brahmananda is like one drop compared to the ocean of pleasure derived from devotional service. So the people who actually engage in unalloyed devotional service realize it's the most pleasurable experience and nothing else compares to it. Therefore, that's all they want to do. The neophyte devotees, they see there's some pleasure in devotional service, but there's also some pleasure in sense gratification. So sometimes I'll do sense gratification, and sometimes I'll do devotional service. This way I get the best of both worlds, but it's not actually a fact. You miss out on the sweet taste of pure devotional service. There's a nice analogy in the Bhakti Yoga Sindhu as long as one is affected by the black art of the two witches, Bhakti and Mukti, one cannot taste the sweet taste of devotional service. As long as one is desiring sense gratification or desiring liberation, one's mind will be distracted and won't be able to absorb himself in the devotional service and experience its sweet taste. So thank you for your question. Did that help at all?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Like Giant Vedaswami, he'll speak like half the time and then he'll have questions for the rest of the time. And it's much more interesting that way. And for me it's more easy because I'm just not inspired to say anything, probably because I only slept 4 hours. Maybe travel internationally overnight the previous day. But so it's much better if people ask me questions, then I can answer them. I mean, it can continue to 9 o'clock, otherwise I'll have to chant Hare Krishna or something. Question?
Yeah, we are going on Harinam today.
Well, I have to consult with the Kirtan devotees who know where it's best for book distribution. I always go to Hotel de Ville on the rainy days because it's the infallibly driest place. But Mars was saying Houseman is better, and there are places
better, busier.
Busier, yeah. There are places that are dry there, and sometimes they have canned music pumped out into.
Not in Asman.
Not anymore, huh?
Not in Asman.
Okay.
But they don't let you chant sometimes.
Yeah, it's more restricted.
But it is. There are several shops, right? There's Printemps and there's Galerie Lafayette. So if we get kicked out of one, we can always go to the other.
Yeah, we can.
Right. So we got at least two shops. Well, if we want to do 3 hours before the leaving for yoga lyric at 6:30, we'd have to do 3:30 to 6:30. We'd have to leave here at 2:30. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay. We have time to recover from the Ekadashi. And then leave here at 4 et demi. Tours, right?
2:30.
It's 14 in Espanol, 14 hora. It's towards Ur, I'd say. Yeah, 14 and a half. So yeah, so you take the, go to house when you take the line E, right? You go to Garden Door and take line E. Very good. Any other questions? So we have Kirtan tonight at 9 o'clock. What's that?
You said that in the spiritual world there's also earth, water, and fire.
But it's spiritual. Spiritual earth, spiritual.
What does that mean? It's spiritual. Is it a conscious living entity in itself, or is it just Krishna's presence in that form?
Well, it's conscious. Everything's conscious.
A lump of air,
Yeah,
air,
yeah. It's definitely conscious because everything there is conscious.
A form of life, My service in the spiritual world is to the air.
Yeah, well, it's conscious and it's serving Krishna and it's air.
Is there an expansion of Bhagavatam, or what is it?
Yeah, the whole spiritual world is an expansion of Bhagavatam, so it would have to be. Sandani, shit in Latin. Joy being eaten by devotees. Eternal glory. That's one that's assimilated into another person. So sometimes when asked about the spiritual world, Prabhupada would say that it's inconceivable, and we would find out when we get there. So I think I'll pass on that authoritative answer. Well, you are the Swami, or is it you or Mahavishnu Swami, or both of you that say that in the old days he used to have kirtan after the class?
Mahavishnu Swami.
They stopped it by the time you came around. Did they stop it by the time you came around?
Oh, did they have it?
Yeah. Do you remember?
I can't remember having a scheduled kirtan at the class. I mean, Maharaj does that.
Yeah.
But I can't remember. Perhaps there was an arti at that time. I can't remember.
Shall we chant for 5 minutes? Hare Krishna.
Do what you wish.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,